Hi everyone, welcome back. It's hard to believe how fast this course is flying by. I think with this particular recording we're halfway or perhaps even a little more than halfway through with the course. I'm enjoying the discussions that we're doing online and I'm looking forward to a good discussion this next week about staying in touch with people in our families when we're far away from them, whether they're grandparents or parents when you're at college or whoever they happen to be. So it should be a good discussion. Let me tell you a little bit about the readings and the videos and the podcast coming up for this next week. A lot of what we've talked about so far, I think, in the course has really illustrated that there are tremendous upsides and also some downsides to the use of technology in our families. You know, the upsides have to do with being able to stay in touch with people across long distances and more frequently, and having a variety of ways in which we can stay in touch with the people that we love. But like anything, there are risks that go along with technology, and there are some potential downsides, particularly if there are excesses or abuses of the use of technology, which can happen really with anything. And so this week we're going to be focusing on potential risks to families that are associated with technology. And we're kind of be covering several different areas. So if this were a longer semester, we'd spread these out over a couple of weeks, but we're putting several different concerns into 1 week because these are all pretty important concerns that show up for families. One has to do with safety in general. And a lot of parents and others really are concerned about ways in which the internet may pose potential risks and not be safe for us as individuals. And one piece is an article which is a survey from Pew Research on parents' attitudes toward their children's use of the internet. And I think one of the things you'll see, and this is the article by Madden, I think one of the things you'll see in this article is that parents do have a lot of concerns about their kids' exposure to the internet. And they're not quite sure what to do about it always. And not quite sure what's appropriate in terms of monitoring their children's use of the internet. And so they've surveyed parents about what are your concerns and what sort of things do you do to monitor your children on the internet. And I'd like for you to read that article. Like the other Pew articles, read the first section. I think maybe it's the first 19 pages. If you want to read the rest that talks about methodology and all that kind of stuff, that's fine. But the core that we're looking at is the first section. Also related to safety is an NPR podcast from one of their shows, All Things Considered or something, that talks about domestic violence and the use of technology in aiding domestic violence. And it's kind of the dark side, or one of the dark sides of the internet, but ways in which people who are offenders, people who are abusers, may find themselves using technology as a way of maintaining their abusive behavior. And of course those that are victims of this abuse are also impacted by it. It's kind of a dark piece. So I just want to warn you about that coming in, and you might be a little surprised about some of the technology that's out there that is being used by abusers in cases of domestic violence. Another area where there's concern related to families and the internet is in the area of gaming. Now, as we know, gaming is a huge part of the internet industry, and lots of people are gamers, and lots of people use it as a way to kind of relax and to be competitive and to enjoy staying connected with other people, and it can be a great way of doing that. You may also know people who have gone overboard with it, who just seem to spend hours on end on games, and it's like their whole life is really devoted to that, and other parts of their life, including their relationships with family members, are affected by that. And so there are two pieces I have for you there. One is a video. Actually, this is part of the Digital Nation video, I believe, that we used before. I think Cooking with Bubby came from that. This is another segment of that. So just like in that case, go to the place that's marked on the on the note, that you'll have at the beginning of the week, the note that I sent to you, and I think it's about an 11-minute segment that talks about Korean, gaming in Korea, which in some ways has really become a problem, particularly when it's used in large internet centers, and people come in and they'll play really for hours and hours on end. So talks really about the addictive nature of gaming, and I think you may find it pretty interesting. I also have a couple of readings by Shelly Turkle. You might remember her from the very first class week that we had. She was one of the people that talked about the internet and how it's affecting us, Broadbent and Turkle. Well, Turkle has written a book called Alone Together, and in this book she talks about he talks about a lot of things, but one of the things she talks about is a certain kind of gaming, wherein people develop avatars, and in particular she talks about a game called Second Life. And so there are a couple of readings, one of them's pretty short, the other one's a little longer, from Turkle, that talk about gaming in not so much the competitive gaming like World of Warcraft or those sorts of things, but more Second Life, and how the lines become our quote-unquote real lives and our second lives can become kind of blurred through gaming. The last piece, social concern, that sometimes shows up related to the internet and families, has to do with sexuality, and we're all aware that there's a huge pornography industry that takes place online, that it's accessible to people, that it's affordable, that it's always there, and it can have some impact on family relationships. And so I have two things for you there. One is an article. It's a journal article by Delmonico and Griffin. There are a couple of family therapists that talk about some concerns for family members. It's a little bit older article. I looked for something that was a bit newer, but I think they still cover the water pretty well, although some of their suggestions aren't keeping up to date really with, say, cell phone technology and those sorts of things. But I think if you read it for the general principles behind it, you'll find it pretty helpful. The other is a brief video, probably 3 or 4 minutes in length, from a larger show that aired a few years ago, that features a woman named Nicole. And Nicole is somebody who gets involved in sexual interactions over the internet, and it really kind of talks about her story and what her experience with that has been. Okay, so that's a lot for this week. A lot of reading, a lot of videos, podcasts, and hopefully we'll have a lot of good discussion about it when we get to talking about these resources. Have a good week.